good. This is our session from Clark University, partnering university grads with Latin vendors through a food truck. And the presenters today are myself, Teresa Quinn, and Lisa Dobson. We are both faculty and staff at Clark University. And then we have two students here, Philip Tran and Melanie Adams.
So maybe we can just talk about how you guys ended up in the course, maybe. Melanie, why don't you go first? Maybe tell about your background or something.
Sure. So I kind of came upon my entrepreneurship and innovation minor accidentally. I have an entrepreneurial personality, but I was very interested in crafting. And sophomore year, I started my small business, Bralettes by Melanie. And so I started my first entrepreneurship class called Student Run Ventures with Professor Quinn, and kind of realized that I really identified with this minor. And so fast forward 2 years, and now I'm in community-based entrepreneurship. And I was really drawn to this class because I've done a lot of work in the community, developing yoga programs for different places, such as at the University Park Campus School, for Maine Idea and some other nonprofit organizations. And so it really was an opportunity for me to make a difference in Worcester, which has been important to me, while also doing what I'm very passionate about, teaching yoga. So that's how I decided to take this class.
Excellent, Melanie. Go ahead, Philip.
Let's see, I guess I got into this entrepreneurship classes because I wanted to do something different, just out of the expected of me. Because I've been taking traditional classes, like I majored in sociology, but I wanted to do something just different from like just academic traditional learning. I want to do like hands-on stuff. So I came across entrepreneurship classes, and I wanted to take my own approach to it. I like doing like photos and art, so want to see what I can do with that. And throughout the years, I've kind of narrowed down what I want to do. Still trying to figure it out, but I kind of want to get into like clothing and fashion and all that.
Good. And myself, I am a longtime entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, and have worked internationally. And lately, I entered different spaces in the community since we moved here in Worcester 6 years ago, and learned a lot about the community. And I also teach entrepreneurship and ESL as a second language and higher ed, so that people can advance in their communication and professional skills. So that's how I ended up teaching this course this semester.
My background is I am the program manager for the Entrepreneurship and Innovation program at Clark University. I've been here for about 2.5 years, and over that time I was lucky enough to work with John Dobson, who had already been at Clark University, and we had very much the same teaching process and ideas of how we wanted to get students involved in entrepreneurship, which was mainly having them start businesses, have them actually practice what they've been, practice what it is like to be an entrepreneur. Before I was here at Clark, I also worked at Dakota Wesleyan University. I was the assistant director over there, and we actually started businesses there too. And I've seen Midwest businesses, and I've now seen East Coast businesses, and they're both just awesome. So that's my background. The outcome of this session is that we're really trying to show the importance of shared governance in the development of a community-based entrepreneurship program and course. And to give a background on Clark University, we are a small liberal arts university in Worcester, Massachusetts. There's about 3,500 students, 2,500 are undergrads, and about 1,000 are grads and PhDs. The Entrepreneurship and Innovation program is housed within the School of Management, and something that's, I think, very interesting about that is entrepreneurship has bounced around many places at Clark and finally just landed in the School of Management. But it's not really, it's not a part of that learning curriculum. It truly does have its own life, so to speak. I'm just housed there. Entrepreneurship and innovation is only offered as a minor at Clark University, but one of the most interesting parts about that is that we are the second largest minor on the university campus, second only, I want to say, to psychology, or maybe it was sociology. I can't really remember, but we're second, so that's all that matters. And then over 600 undergraduates take an entrepreneurship class each year through the 2 semesters. And that means that 25% of all undergraduates, which is 2,500, have taken an entrepreneurship class. So that's a little background on that. And so then to continue on, this, as I mentioned earlier, John Dobson was already teaching here full time at Clark, and he had implemented a problem-based entrepreneurship class. And really his backstory is almost the same as mine, and we were at 2 different universities, is that he started teaching entrepreneurship out of the textbook and really the definitions and terms, and he felt like he just wasn't making it a break with the students. He wasn't really making a breakthrough with the students. And here I am, halfway across the United States, doing the same thing. I think if I had to take some of those tests out of those books, I would have failed. And so to ask my students to take the same thing, it was just if they were real good at learning terms and memorizing things. And that is not what entrepreneurship is. So we both ended up at Clark, and we decided to, or he had already had practice in it, but now there was 2 of us there. So the entrepreneurship program took a big turn at about that time in 2018. And the beginning course is the students start a small business, then there's electives in the middle, and then at the end there is a capstone course. And everything revolves really around that first class, that is, you start a small business and you run with it and you learn from starting that small business. So I think it's also really interesting that my backstory shows that I have a degree in small business entrepreneurship from Cal State University, Dominguez Hills, and I was 100% theory, and I learned how to do a business plan. And so what I'd like Lisa to talk about are the 3 approaches to teaching entrepreneurship and what Clark is doing.
Okay, thanks, Teresa. So we looked at the research of how entrepreneurs learn, and we realized that what's happening in the entrepreneurial education sphere in higher ed is that we have 3: practice-based, a theory-based approach, or a problem-based approach. The practice-based approach is where there are activities, the professor or instructors will do activities. These activities are around being creative and trying to be innovative. Or there's some like around design thinking, things like marshmallow towers and Lego building, and some hypothetical innovations. And the idea of the outcomes of those courses is to try and increase creativity. Then there's the theory-based course, or also known as the process-based course in the literature. And this is where entrepreneurs start new ventures, typically follow discrete steps, like Teresa was saying about business model canvases, business plans, venture creation, looking at finances. And the outcome of this learning is to build business skills. And theory-based, process-based is very hypothetical laden. So when the INE program was looking at how to switch over, like Teresa was talking about earlier, to create entrepreneurs, which is the ultimate goal, the decision was made to move towards problem-based learning. And so with the problem-based learning is to become experiential and actual do real life problem-based learning to try to solve real life problems. So the assumption here is that entrepreneurs solve market problems. Students should learn to solve these problems in real life. They're launching real ventures. They're creating their ideas. They're building on them. The activities are concrete, not hypothetical. They're real life. And the outcome is knowledge construction based on an entrepreneurial journey.
Okay. So as I had mentioned earlier, with all these things coming together between John's research, because he has done quite extensive research on it, and me coming in new to the program, we decided to set up a new roadmap kind of program to help students go from point A to point B and to really get the most out of their entrepreneurial journey. So they take 2 courses in the beginning, which is what we call the entrepreneurial foundation courses. And one is, it's called Management 100. And why I think that class is extremely beneficial to the students is it really gives the students the overall what a business does. It's a business class, but it does complement the entrepreneurship journey. Then the other foundation class it's just called Entrepreneurship. And that's the class that we've been talking about where they actually start these small businesses. Every student starts a small business. It's not hypothetical. They don't just write it down as a business plan. They actually have to get out there, make a sale, and have a customer. So after they complete those two, then they're to take 3 classes in electives, and we call that the Exploring Entrepreneurship. And there is a wide range of courses that they can take to really fine-tuning their pitch, to social entrepreneurship, some finances. It just depends on which way they would like to go with it. So then they take 3 courses in that, maybe some marketing, and then they come to experiencing entrepreneurship, which is the capstone level. And of those 3, I don't know if you're looking at the same slide, Lisa, but of those 3 capstones, and that's what we're really talking about in this presentation, is the capstone class. The students can take, based on where they are in their journey, they can take Global eLab, and that is to work internationally with a professor on campus and have them implement their entrepreneurial skills to help small businesses around the globe. There's that one. And then we have experiencing entrepreneurship, is where the student has actually maybe started that business in 115, the small business, and kept it growing their whole 4 years. And they're really ready to step off that graduation stage and continue working on their business. And we have several that have done that. That's experiencing entrepreneurship. But then we have this community-based entrepreneurship where these students have already developed their skills. They know how and know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And now they're able to take those skills and actually help the community. And we think it's the best way of going about utilizing their skills at a capstone level that's not necessarily they've already started their business, they're going to continue working it, or the global part of it. But here's a very robust community of small businesses around our school called Maine South. And so our students are able to partner with them and practice their entrepreneurship skills. And so the way we decided to do that is to get the food truck. And I'm going to turn this over to Lisa now to talk about really the ecosystem that this builds with the food truck and the community.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about what Maine South, or who Maine South is. Our Maine South community is bridges on next door, like Teresa said, to where Clark University is. And Clark, or Maine South, is a very diverse, multicultural, Latinx, minority immigrant community, which has a lot of mom and pop small businesses, and have been there for a long time. And then there's some up and coming new ones, and then there's ones where you can see where there's nobody, where it has transitioned out and that the storefronts are closed. So it's an area that is looking to improve itself within the main greater Worcester community city. It's a very low income area of the city, lots of poverty, underserved communities. There's a lot of nonprofits, small community religious groups, small group organizations, and there is some government input in that area as well by means of transformational ideas and having a community change agent based out of that community. So the majority, like I said, are Latinx, family-owned, women-owned businesses. And of course, there's the, we can't forget that this year, this particular group has been hit hard with the COVID-19 happening over the last year. So it was a year in March. And so they have been hit really hard, and there have been a number of initiatives that have gone in trying to help on that respect with coming up with ways to even help them apply for the extra loans that were available, and reaching out to this group has been not the easiest thing during COVID. You got the slide back up, Teresa?
Yeah, I've been keep trying, and it looks like it finally worked.
Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah,
so with respect to the next slide Teresa has up there, talking
sure.
about developing the ecosystem of, no, I'm back one. So in developing the ecosystem of working, I will say we're not totally, this class, community-based entrepreneurship, is not totally focused just on that area of Maine South, but we are open to other areas of the community that also need help. And just to let you know, Worcester is a community which the schools alone, the elementary schools and high schools, have 70% Latino students, Latinx. So it's not just our Maine South area, but this is broadened all throughout the whole community of Worcester. So I'll go back to developing an effective ecosystem. So when you're looking at the ecosystem, we kind of looked at it and said, okay, we have the university here, we have the community over here that I just talked about. So what can happen between this topology of partnership? What can happen here? So first, you could have an exchange where you both benefit and resources are exchanged back and forth. We looked at the idea of cooperative sharing relationships where the parties plan together and share responsibilities of some, looking towards some outcome. Or there could be an exchange or service relationships where the individuals or units, you're kind of selling, like, for instance, a lot of universities have ESL programs and you are selling that to the community. ESL meaning English as second language, which Clark also does have and does actually offer for free to the community. But what we decided the best way of going around a partnership for the students to learn and get effective learning for community entrepreneurship would be to go through the systemic and transformative. So I'm not sure if that got changed on the slide, Teresa, because I had to turn mine off. So my slide actually says something different, but number 4 should be systemic and transformative relationships. And so that is an inclusive approach. It's problem oriented, it's co-creation solution based, and it's asset based. And so the idea is that the students are going out and they are working, they have these ideas, they then go out into the community and see how their idea, which they have started to develop, who can they relate with in the community, who in the community can relate to them, and they come up with a co-creation of moving forward with this idea, and it becomes a project that is developed between the two partners. And the reason why we went with this type of relationship is because this is the type of a relationship that builds trust. If you don't have the trust relationship rooted in the partnership, it's just not going to happen. And so what I explained to the students in the class is that if you're going out into the community, if you don't have that trust, nothing happens. But the ultimate end result is that you're there, your co-partner is there to do something that allows you to make a difference in the community, so that when you leave, you look back and you say, I have to move on as a student, but I helped leave that community better off than when I entered. So that's our approach. It's a co-creating experience for the students and for the partnership in the community and for the university. So I move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So the next, I don't know if I had, sorry, people, sorry to the audience. I had to turn off I'm losing internet connection, so I can't see a lot. I just have my earphones in. So developing more on the point of developing an effective ecosystem is that when you're going out into the community from a university standpoint and students that are in higher education, you are at what is perceived to be the formal learners and people who know what they're doing and people who are looked up to. And so in the class, we talk about the fact that real life and going out and solving problems is about informal learning. And so if you think about it in terms of the metaphor of an iceberg, what people see is higher education, they have all the answers, they know everything. But if you look under that metaphor of the iceberg, the reality is that informal learning is up to 90% of what is out there to be learned. And that is where entrepreneurs come up with their idea. That is how people are learning every day and trying to solve real life problems. And so this is really important to understand, not only from the point of view of going out and being respectful of what the community has to offer you, but realizing as students and people in higher ed that we don't have all the answers. And it's okay that we don't have all the answers and that we're on a learning journey together to solve a problem. So we need to bring ourselves together from a learning standpoint. And that's really important for an ecosystem to work effectively together.
So then, Lisa, I have you up next with what you've done so far in the class.
Okay. Each week?
Yes, you have the 4 weeks.
Okay. So the first week in the class, so I'll just give a perspective and some context to this, is that this is a brand new course for the university with the food truck. And it is just started because because of COVID, the university pushed back and opened up this semester just 4 weeks ago. So we just had 4 classes. So week 1, the students did what's called a brainwriting exercise. And in this brainwriting exercise, they decide what ideas individually they would like to work on. And with that, can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And with that brainwriting exercise, each person passed around their idea. The idea gets built upon with other peers in the classroom, and a final version of their idea, which was built upon, is presented. That student will present that idea. In the end, there were 4 themes that emerged, and so 4 groups were made based on whose themes merged together. So the first theme is Together Fest. The second theme came up was social tacos. The next one was mocktails, munchies, and movies. And the fourth one was a taste of Worcester. So in this perspective, what's happening is that this gives the students agency, that they can develop an idea that is meaningful to them, and they will go out in partnership with a group. They'll search and look for someone who wants to partnership with this idea and develop something great. So one of the key realizations of that first week was that the students' unawareness of the community. So we backtracked and realized that students need to become more aware of what is out in the community, who is out in the community, what groups are out in the community. And of course, it's COVID, and for the first 3 weeks of classes, we were still remote. So the second week, I invited very specific guest speakers to come in based out of Maine South, which is the closest community to Clark. And so we had the transformation officer come in from the community transformation officer for Maine South. We had the economic and development officer for the city of Worcester come in. We had the Latin American Business Organization president come in. This is all remote on Zoom. We have a public market, a new public market here in Worcester, which is it's new, and the best way I can describe this public market is that it is a great starting ground for young businesses to start and grow and move rapidly and quickly and gain a presence in the community. And a lady came in from that public market to talk to the class. And the final person to come in was another woman who owns a small business on Maine South, which again is the poorest area of the community. And she is also the president of the newly formed small business association on Maine South. So they all came in and spoke to the students. They were given 10 minutes to speak of their challenges, opportunities that are out there, and then the students had 10 minutes to ask them questions. The students did phenomenal asking questions and getting information out of the people who presented. And it was a real learning curve for the students. Afterwards, the realization was from a government standpoint to the standpoint of the actual businesses and the community people who spoke, there is a great divide. So the students had a real key realization that night in their thinking of, my idea, our idea from the class, and how can we help this great divide that exists out in the community. So the next week, the third week, they were able to work on ideation, which is they are redeveloping their ideas. They are now out in the community and asking questions and trying to connect with people they want to connect with. And they're having aha moments. And I call this certain things like their fears are starting to pop up, like questions like, what if I don't want to be like I promised somebody something and I can't deliver? And what if I can't figure out what problem is the community wants to solve? And so it's like crazy learning that's happening, but it's so fantastic to see the students do this. It's real life, and it's really, they're putting themselves out there. And I don't think there's anything better to give these students than that for when they leave university and be able to go out into the real world. And it's amazing to watch them make all these systemic connections. And so finally, last night was our fourth get together. And so they had, we have introduced a SWOT analysis and a PERT chart. So they look at their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And now they're looking at how to develop their idea even to a deeper level using a project management tool. So there's a lot happening. It's crazy learning. They are amazing learners, and it's interesting to see how well they are connecting with the community. And on the fourth week, I saw major breakthroughs last night in the classroom, and still a lot of great things to come. So it's very impressive learning that's happening.
Fantastic. Okay, and so as we've talked about, there's ways to connect with the community, and what Clark has decided is that we're going to use the food truck as the medium, so to speak. I really would like to bring up the photos here if I can. So this is the truck. This is what we've got here, and they're actually extremely compact, but with Maine South, it's a very congested area. So we actually believe that this is going to be one of the better kind of food trucks to bring on in. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is a mock-up. That's actually the real van, the real truck, but this is a mock-up with how we could decorate it. The other thing that we've talked about doing is, as we're partnering with the community, these are stickers that we have here, so to speak, the magnetic stickers. But if businesses that they decide they'd like to partner with in the Maine South community would like to make their own and bring their own, they can also use the truck as an advertisement, a billboard for their business. But then also we will have Clark on there too, so they can see, the community will start to see that we're actually partnering together as we continue to go forward through that means. And so here's some insight to what it looks like. It's actually a full commercial kitchen that was put into this van. It's got the metal floors. It's got the pop-up roof. So somebody who is standing up there and cooking, they can stand up comfortably. It definitely is something that the community will notice when it's out there. It's cool looking. People will come up to it. So I think it's actually even more fun than the typical food truck because it is so very unique. And then inside, again, it is a commercial kitchen that will be approved by the Board of Health or the health board within Worcester, but it has the 3 sinks. It has a water container where the water can be heated. It has, if I'm not mistaken, it has a refrigeration. Is that right, Lisa?
That's right, Teresa.
Yep. But it's still on its way. And then, of course, it has the pop out on the side so people can do their selling and put the food out there. And then last but not least, this is what we would eventually like it to look like. Since our colors are white and red, we'd like to dress it up a little bit more that represents Clark, but we are working with what we have. This is what we have. You know, we have a very low budget, so we were able to get this truck donated, and I wanted to talk about some of the behind the scenes with the donation of a truck. It's not necessarily donated in the fact that they gave us the truck. It's a company that owns it, and they're letting us borrow the truck to go out and do these things. Lisa, did you want to add anything? Did I miss anything about the truck? Just the bones about it?
No, I think that's great.
Okay. All right. So, you know, we've talked about how we're going to connect with the community, and it does sound like just wonderful. It's really wonderful. It's both sides can benefit. But the thing I'd like to talk about now is the behind the scenes part of it. It is a lot of work. And so a school that's looking to go into this, be prepared for the work that goes with it. You know, entrepreneurs as a whole are very, well, we've got big dreams. And so we think big, and putting restraints on us is not something that's we work well with. However, the university is very restrained. And I would say that most universities are like that because of the things that could go wrong that could affect them. So behind the scenes right now, we're negotiating with the entrepreneurship department is actually negotiating with the business department on Clark's campus of how we're going to bring this in and lower the liability to the school. You know, they brought in the attorneys. And so it although it sounds like a great partnership and a great medium, and it is, and we're really looking forward to the long-term part of it, getting it set up is a lot of work. And so the insurance, you know, right now, we don't know who should insure it. Should it be the school? Should it be the owner of the? So what we're deciding right now is it's kind of a combination of the thing. The owner of the truck will maintain insurance, but then it's going to be insured like any other classroom. That's how the insurance. So if somebody gets hurt in it, yada yada. We have to go through all the food safety. Every single person that's going to be on that truck, even in the community, they all have to have the food safety or the food handler's license. Legal aspects, the legal team came in also and has all their concerns about the liability and who's driving it and where it's going to be going and you know how they're going to look. And one question that I thought was very interesting that the attorneys brought up is what if somebody gets sick from the food that's sold, but it's with one of the community partners. And it's not necessarily that we're worried about the sickness there, but also the negative that now Clark has in front of Maine South because of this one incident. So, you know, they're constantly reminding us of really the perception of what we're bringing out there. You know, the other thing is this truck is old and it's a stick shift. And so now we have to make sure that everyone that's driving it is trained. It also has a cutoff switch, you know, for the kitchen. So the students and whoever else is in there needs to know how to turn that thing off in case there's an emergency. So we have to go through and set up the training procedures. You just can't send it out on the road. Branding it, you know, how are we going to make sure that it people know it when it's coming down the road? You know, those things can get tricky and expensive, but another direction that we're going with branding is through admissions. As students come in and touring the school, admissions has decided to use them as a recruiting tool because this is very cool to have this on campus. And so admissions even wants to, you know, be a part of it. So now that even opens up more possible problems that could go with just the class. I'm talking about just the truck. You know, time and who's gonna manage it, who's gonna be in charge of the keys. You know, where are we gonna put it in the winter storage when we can't roll
Philip and Melanie. I think we'll, instead of dead space while we're waiting for Teresa to come back, I think we'll just move into you guys being, Teresa, I was just going to get the students to start like asking, pumping them some questions. So you can go ahead. I think you have a list of questions there to ask them.
I do. So as I think I might have, I don't know how it got cut off, but we've talked about the great upfront, the combination between the community and all the benefits that come with it. And then we've talked about, the behind the scenes. But let's talk now with the students that are actually in this class. And we've come up with a few questions we'd like to have them share their insight with. And so this is Melanie Adams and Philip Tran, and they're going to answer a few of our questions. So the first one, and I'm going to start with Philip, and then Melanie, if you want to follow up with your answer to this question too. So this class, we've offered it in the past under different pretenses, and of course it didn't have the truck in it. But what was your original interest in the 260? Or I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. What was your original interest in entrepreneurship at Clark, just as is?
Just as is, I wanted to try something different outside the normal context. Hands-on learning is always interesting to me. So at the college level, I want to see how that's approached here at Clark University. So I wanted to take a class in entrepreneurship for the hands-on experience.
Okay. And then again, like I said, this is the original interest in entrepreneurship even before the class. I know I threw in class there, but I had to backtrack a bit. So with you, Melanie, what was your interest in just taking an entrepreneurship course at Clark?
So before I came to Clark, I became a certified yoga teacher, and I invested about $3,000 in that. And then I just kind of realized that I have a very innovative personality, and I come up with these gigantic ideas, and I don't have the logistical understanding of how to make them into a reality. So that is how I got involved in entrepreneurship, because I wanted a framework to be able to make all my dreams happen. And as a yoga teacher, it's just not so easy to make money doing that. So I had to come up with different ways for this to be sustainable for me as a career, and to build it into something more that could be a career after I graduate as well. So that's kind of how I got involved with it. And like I said at the beginning, I took one class with Professor Quinn, and that was it. And I decided to declare the minor, and it just was a welcome deviation from management and psychology, because it was more hands-on and more social.
Great, great. We'll go back to Philip, and we'll start with it, or we'll go to the next question. What ventures did you start while you were at Clark, and how has that impacted your learning overall?
Well, I wanted to start simple. I started with just doing photography, seeing how I can do that, and I guess over time, I kind of narrowed down on what I want to do with my work and like what I like doing. So I think the more I do my own stuff, I just want to narrow down like what specifically do I want to do with it. So I want to go into like fashion, clothing, like accessories, with incorporating my own photo work too. So I've tapped two skill sets: one where I can like sell merchandise, one where I can like sell my services. Using both. So I guess I went into it with like a simple approach, and now I'm gonna walk away with it with like a more diverse mindset and how entrepreneurship works.
Right? And Melanie, would you like me to
Um,
repeat the question?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Like I said, I was already a yoga teacher, but I didn't really have a small business associated with that. It was more just Melanie's yoga class. And so that started before I got to Clark. And then sophomore year, I also have been crocheting for 10 years. So at that point, I started Bralettes by Melanie as my first venture at Clark. And I've been making stuff like this. And so I started that, and then the yoga was kind of simultaneously happening. And then it was actually the pandemic that made me kind of turn it into a more formal business, because I had to shift gears and start teaching online and start relying on this as a job, because my backup option of being a waitress, while it paid great, was no longer a safe option for me anymore. So my back was against the wall, and I had to turn this into a profitable business. So that started about a year ago, and now I've been more involved with that other venture, Empower Yoga Project, while also kind of crafting on the side. But now this is set as my career, and the other business is more of a hobby at this point.
Great, great. All right, we'll go back to you, Philip. We'll start up with another question. And so now this is where I got kind of ahead of myself earlier, but why did you take this course over the other two capstone courses?
It seemed the most different from anything I've done, and I just wanted the experience to see what I can take away from it, and that's basically it. It seems interesting. I like to see how I work with other people. It's one of those skill sets you should just improve upon always. You can't stay still in that. And yeah, I mean, just working with other people, working in the community, that's just something unique. It's good memories too.
When you started up, or when you started looking into the class, did you know there was going to be a food truck in it?
No, but that's
The initial first time that you started looking at this class over the other two? No?
no, I didn't know, but
Yeah.
I knew it had something to do with the community, so I figured I'm open. That could
Has
mean
it
any.
has it changed your opinion?
I don't know, maybe, but no, I like it. I like it.
Oh man, our again. I'm so sorry. Good. And Melanie, so why did you take this course over the other two courses?
I've always been
Capstone.
very dedicated to helping people with the yoga work that I do. So I'm not in it to make a ton of money, and I'm not in it to be the star of the show. I'm there because I genuinely want to make a difference in people's lives and help them to feel at home in their bodies again. And so I don't know, I had to find new ways to reach people beyond just college students that come to me. Who else can I bring yoga to? And it's also I'm very like project based, and I have like different stuff going on off campus. So it felt like a good way to also bring in my partners from other parts of yoga, other parts of Worcester that I partner with for yoga. Um, and I did not know about the food truck aspect before I signed up for the class, but I more just thought it related to my mission of empowering other people through making movement education accessible to them. But the food truck part has been an added bonus that me and Philip are just so excited about our event coming together.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right. So back to you, Philip. We kind of talked about this already, but what was your first thought when you realized the food truck was going to be there?
Kind of overwhelming because I've never done anything with food trucks before, but I mean, I'm open to it. Why not? It's all about adapting to new things all at once. So, gotta give that a shot. Might get a bit tricky here and there, but as long as you have a good group, good professor, good mindset, you can get through this semester.
Good, good. And Melanie, what you must have been like, whoa, where'd this come from?
I was thinking I don't want to go back to working in a restaurant and doing food service. So I was a little hesitant at first of falling back to something that like while I was doing it was very draining to me and like I don't know, it just like wasn't my purpose. But then I thought about the idea of teaching yoga in front of this food truck, and I got very attached to like that vision of like how fun would that be. And so we started coming up with this idea of a festival, a wellness festival, and all the different things that we can bring in besides just the food. So for our particular idea, like the food is not the central thing. So we plan to like serve drinks or smoothies and stuff like that. But really, people are there for the community and the togetherness and making new friends through these shared recreational activities. So does that answer your question?
That really does, and that's very insightful, and it's pretty heartwarming too that you guys have decided that, and all the layers and levels that you're adding to the food truck. That's great. That's actually a
And
great
I'm also
answer.
yeah, I'm very lucky to like to have Philip on my team as well. That kind of fell together because we've done a lot of work together for the past 2 years. He's been a photographer for my business and a videographer, and so we just like know how we work together very well. And so being a team, I just like have a lot of faith in what our final product is going to be.
Great. Excellent. Okay. Let's see, what are you and your group planning? Okay, so you guys already talked about that you're going to do a festival. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, either one of you? I know you've already explained quite a bit, but if you want to go more into detail.
I could go first.
Mhm.
So it's mostly centered around like activities, entertainment, but we're also trying to work around with the food component. We want like fun foods like smoothies, fruit bowls, all that, stuff like yeah. We're still working on that kind of component. Um, but I think Melanie's covered most of it because I can't really add much.
Yeah, so one of our festival events is going to be at the Burncoat Center for Arts and Wellness. I've done blacklight yoga events there. I used to teach there weekly, and they are a great community partner for us because I already know like how I work with them as a team, and they also have a collective vendor market. So they sell like goods and crafts and stuff that were made by over 75 different vendors, not just in Massachusetts, but in other states in New England. So by bringing them in and kind of directing traffic to their gift shop, we are kind of indirectly helping all 75 of those vendors to have their products seen by more people. So we're kind of taking on the idea of the collective, and we're inviting some of their vendors to set up a table at our festival and sell their crafts. And being somebody who has been a vendor before at an event like that, I understand how constructive it is for somebody who has a new business to have the opportunity to sell their products face to face and convince people of their mission. So that has been central to us, is bringing in as many Worcester entrepreneurs as we can and giving them the chances that we've also had to sell our goods. So that's kind of our vision, is that like this yoga will bring people to support the entrepreneurs in our collective project.
Can you hear me? Because I can't hear you guys at all. um, all right. If you can hear me, can you hear each other? Are you able to hear? Okay, I can't hear you. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. You could tell each other. Um, where do you think Clark should focus for continued operation of this food truck? I hope you guys didn't answer that as we went forward.
I think over time it'll be more structured, but I think this is a good like concept already. Working with Maine South is already really great. I think in the future, it's hard to say right now, but I think like once we get through this semester, like we'll have a good structure, like how this class have went, and next time this class goes down, it'll be a good idea to see how well this worked with Maine South and what businesses would like to come back with us if we want to work with them again. If not, then we get more exposure with other businesses in Maine South. That's how I would answer it.
Yeah, I think Philip has a great answer to that because we want it to be sustainable for the community partners. So just having them on board for our 3 events, like, yeah, they'll probably have a fun time. Maybe they'll make some money, but the people who really this really resonates with and they really love it, I think there's a great opportunity for them to partner with a different student group next year. And I think like the important thing about like being college students and working in a community that is kind of low income is that we have to make it not about us in some ways. And so I feel like some groups, their instinct might have been to do this entire project on their own without involving the community partners so much because it's easier to do it that way. But this process of like communicating and co-creating with vendors, so not just saying you're going to do this, you're going to be here at this time, but asking them what they want their vision for the event to be and how they want to contribute. So I think it's a good opportunity for Clark to kind of gain the trust of the Maine South community and have them really believe that we want to help them and we're not just gentrifying their neighborhood, that we really like want to uplift them as well, and give them experience with entrepreneurship in a more informal way, like Lisa was talking about earlier.
Lisa, can you still hear us?
Can you hear me?
I can. Yep. I can't
Yes.
see you though.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, my things just keep rolling around. So I can hear. Yeah. Did you have a specific question for me, Teresa?
We have one. I have one more question for the students, and then we have maybe the takeaways,
Okay.
because I'm really really struggling with the connection. It just keeps going in and out. Would that be all right with you if we shortened it up a little bit?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we're coming on close to time too, anyways.
Okay, so then let me just ask this last question. So far, both of you, Melanie and Philip, your answers have been so good and reflective, and I truly
Very, very
appreciate your
enlightening.
insight.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I really appreciate it very much. Wish I could hear more. Okay, the last one, and I always like to ask this of all my classes, but what advice would you give to future ENT students that are going to take the future community-based entrepreneurship? So if they were taking this class, what advice would you give up and coming students taking this class?
I'll go first. Guess advice I would give as right now, just find something that means something to you and how it resonates with Maine South or the community of Worcester, and make trust with those business owners and get to know them as people instead of just business owners too, because making friends is nice. And just you get to have new experiences. And the advice, ultimately, just take away the advice is just have fun. Don't take it too seriously, but also just know that you're working with other people, and it shouldn't be just about you.
Mhm. I'll kind of like speak about like my process and the problems that I've faced if I'm gonna give advice. So, step one is like ideate widely, broadly, come up as many ideas as you can, because it's still like very early in the process. So that's kind of what our team did, and then trying to like get to a timeline to like actually accomplishing this has been a process of first of all, like kind of seeing like what's realistic and what's not, and narrowing it down a little bit. And also, as a team, we went through a process of finding and identifying our strengths and what we each can contribute to this. So we came up with kind of a pitch before we involved community partners of our project, and then from there we were flexible. So I think flexibility is important, and asking your community partner, what do you want and how can we help you to make this just as fun and successful for you as it is for us. So I guess like my takeaways are like, don't be afraid to have big ideas, but also be willing to start to narrow it down, play to your team's strengths and weaknesses. And if there's something that nobody in the team is good at, you need to outsource and you need to bring someone else in to help, because it's always like the more hands you can get on your project, the more amazing what you're going to create is going to be. And always with your community partners, like have trust in them that they also like want to help you, and really see what you can do to help them as well. And be open to changing your idea. So always being flexible and learning from what doesn't go so well, so that you can like move forward and not like make the same mistakes again.
So do you want me to do some
Lisa,
takeaways, Teresa? So
yeah,
a few takeaways from the
yeah,
entrepreneurship.
yeah.
This
You
new.
do keep cutting in and out.
Okay. Um, Basically, can you hear me or will I stop? Hello?
We can hear
I can
you.
hear you.
Okay, all right. So, some takeaways, some quick takeaways are that the course aligns with the community engagement strategy. So, this a course fits underneath the university umbrella. B, it allows students to perform and grow from where they are. Like Melanie was just saying, they figured out what their skills, knowledge, and abilities were, and they are starting there, and they move forward from that, and they're in a safe learning environment around the university and feel the comfort that they can go forward with the skills they have. Students engage and get to engage in real life community based entrepreneurship as co-creators in learning and build trust and build agency. They get to bridge informal and formal learning. They get to build out their soft skills that are tools for real life problem solving, and that will take them far out in the real world. And finally, they develop more learner autonomy and agency for lifelong learning and community action down the road. So I don't have anything else to say after that. It's too bad that we had such a problem being heard, because that means a lot of people couldn't come in as well to hear us. I was on one earlier this morning and it kept cutting in and out, and so I had to leave as well. But I believe that this will get looked at, and I believe that people will be listening to what you guys had to say. And I just can't thank you two students enough for coming on board and letting people hear you. And I know that people will be looking at this. So thank
Yeah.
you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you, Teresa, for bringing
you're
this
in.
course on board at Clark.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to where it's going to go. I really appreciate all of you for giving me the insight and the feedback as we go forward. And as Lisa said, the technology has been a little difficult, so I'm a little stressed with that. So I want to thank you all again. And again, just like Lisa said, I know people are going to be listening, and your insight was really helpful. So I am going to leave. Thank you, everyone.
All right, bye, Teresa. I'm going to leave too. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. This was really
Bye.
fun.
Bye.